Let me end by sharing with you 10 lessons that we can take from our experience. As I said in the previous panel, no African country should outsource its security to foreign military. That is our responsibility, and no one will help us. No one helped Rwanda during the genocide. You have to deal with it yourself. So it means that Africans, we need to deal with our problem and not to outsource our security to foreign military, which always have its own interests. Second lesson, Africa should develop its own narrative, be it on terrorism. Even on the Sahel, the previous panel was developing the Sahel, but even the conception of the Sahel now is a Western conception. We know the Sahel is 11 countries from Senegal to Somalia. But when they talk about Sahel now, they talk about Mali, Burkina, Niger, and Chad, which is not the case. And second, they see Sahel as a problem. But why these countries are fighting for the Sahel? Because their interests, their geostrategic interests, their resources. Even you are from the military, we know the water will be one of the key resources that we'll be fighting for the upcoming 50 years, more than the oil. But we know the underground water resources in the Sahel are huge, and people are looking for them. Even the conception of the terrorism, I don't have time to develop. Maybe when I receive question, I will come to that one as well. The third lesson is we need to be mindful of the connection between certain Western powers and terrorist groups. In the Sahel, I think they are very involved in the constitution and the formation of many of the terrorist groups. I would say even some powers have the remote control, because when they decide terrorists will strike in this country, it will come. I think that one is, Mali has even a case before the Security Council against a member of the Security Council for this type of link. Fourth lesson, I think, is to take responsibility of our own failure. Everything is not the responsibility of those powers. Where we have the responsibility, we have to admit we have our own issues. We need to go into it and accept it. The fifth is to provide our own solution. As they said in the previous panel on the economic issues, I think for the security, for the defense of our country, we need to provide our own solution. And also, the sixth lesson is we have to make sure that we are in the position to finance military expenditure based on our own resources, because this is the price of the sovereignty. The seventh lesson is to transform our regional organization and to establish mechanism whose leadership is truly African and shelter from foreign interference. We have established between Mali, Burkina, and Niger, the Alliance of the Sahel states. Maybe in the question, if I have time, I can develop this new dynamic to count on ourselves to have an organization which is not funded by others, where the leadership is on our own, and we are also working for the interests of our people. 8, the political and institutional reform are also necessary in rebuilding our states. Following on the previous panel, I think security problems are mainly and foremost economic problems. We need to transform our economies to benefit the majority of our people, the majority being women and our youth. This is a national security issue for us. The last issue is to get Africa voice, Africa weight, and to make sure that Africa sits at the table. The previous panel was saying that Africa should be on the table. No, Africa should be at the table, but as my friend Lumumba said, not as a menu, but Africa has to be the cook. It has to be an active cook also to bring the experience of Africa at the table. So I will just stop there. Maybe with the questions, I will be able to develop some of these issues, but we have first and foremost to count on ourselves to tackle the security challenges of Africa. I want also to thank the Minister of Defense and the RDF College for extending this invitation to us. And of course, I convey to you greetings from Colonel Assimi Goïta, the President of the Transition of Mali. I'm here with Brigadier General Alou Boy Diarra, who I hope could complement me because I will be speaking maybe at the 30 feet high and maybe with a different perspective. I hope he can take us down to 30 feet so it can provide really concrete reflection. I also want to own all the issues that have been addressed by my brother Vincent Biruta right now. So it's, he talked on some of the issues that I would want to address. So allow me not to come to those one again and to repeat him. I would like to address the topic of the security challenges in Africa by sharing some reflections from our own perspective, specifically the experience based on the experience of Mali. I want also at the end to share some lessons that Mali has learned throughout the crisis we have gone through for the past 10 years and so. In terms of the challenges, I don't want to go into the detail. I think there are many. They vary from one country to another, and some of the challenges to security in Africa are internal. Some are also external. In terms of the internal challenges, we know we have poverty, unemployment, terrorism, violent extremism, inter-community violence, bad governance, and many other issues. In terms of external, we know colonialism and neocolonialism and imperialism are one of the key drivers to instability and insecurity in Africa. The predation of natural resources is also one of the key points. I think in terms of impact and the challenges of security in Africa, Rwanda is a good example because Rwanda, the issues we have gone through, especially the genocide, has not been made in Africa. I think the ideology itself has been imported, developed, and executed using foreign forces and also trying to oppose communities who have been living together for centuries. And also, I think the example of Rwanda is quite exemplary because out of this tragedy, Rwanda has emerged as a source of resilience and trying to build a community and unity among the Rwandese. So one of the key challenges, in my view, to Africa's security today is the presence of the foreign military on our soil, specifically the foreign military interventions in Africa, which have created chaos and disorder in many countries. I see also the instrumentalization of the regional and international organization and also the politicization of the human rights issue as one of the key problems that we have on the continent. I include also the genocide in that. And if you look at this intervention, I will come back to the intervention of Libya in our region, what problems it has created into our region. So I will work on that one in particular. But the regional organization today, Vincent talked to the necessity of collaboration among the organization, but we need also to think about what type of regional organization we need in Africa. How can we ensure that the leadership in our regional organization is assumed by Africans themselves and that we are not subjects or we are not proxies for foreign power to achieve their own goal and opposing countries and African citizens. Another challenge also is the geostrategic interests of certain powers trying to make Africa the private preserve. As we said in France, the chasse gardée. This competition also still remains a problem. France in particular is one of the bad examples that we have, because if you compare today in Africa, the evolution or the political trajectory of Anglophones and Francophone countries, you will see that really Francophone remains still adolescent because they are hardly able to manage their own business. Another key issue I think has been also addressed by the previous panel by Dr. Kaberuka and others is the double standards. And sometimes I will call it even the hypocrisy of specifically international powers, Western powers in particular. If you look at the way they reacted to the Ukraine war is not the same that they did to the crisis in the Sahel. but human life has the same value. So why when we were in the G5 Sahel, we spent 10 years looking for 400 million euros, which we didn't get. In Ukraine, I think they spent billions in a week. This is also, even on the human rights issues, we see that really there is a double standards in looking at human rights issues, be it in Africa or elsewhere. You will clearly see what are the difference. But in summary of these causes, I see two main drivers. The first one is the governance, bad governance. I hope Brian and others will come maybe more extensively on that one. And the second one I see is the foreign interference. Based on Mali's experience, we think our major problem has been the NATO intervention in Libya, which in my view has not been well think through, well prepared, even well executed. For me, it's really a big geostrategic mistake, to say the few. Otherwise, I think the entire region has been thrown in the conflict because we want just to get rid of a leader. But it has been a game changer in our region, to say. It does not mean that we didn't have problems in Sahel or in Western Africa, but the major problem has been that when this intervention occurred, it has destabilized totally what we call the Sahel and West Africa for 10 years. And as a consequence, Mali lost about 60% of his territory. We had, I will go forward a bit, we had as a consequence the French military intervention in Mali. We have the UN. For French intervention, Barkhane, they spent about 2 million euros per day for over 10 years. UN mission MINUSMA was spending $1.3 billion per year over 10 years. The result is a failure, to be blunt. It was not a success, due in part of the lack of sincerity of the partner, specifically France, who has been playing duplicity toward Malians, and also regarding the UN, it was the inadaptation of the peacekeeping force, which has been deployed to maintain peace in an area where there is no peace to be kept. I'm quoting the UN Secretary General itself, because our major threat is an asymmetric threat, not to mediate between two warring parties. So when President Goïta and the team came into the power, they have decided we need to get out of this paradigm, otherwise we will spend the 100 years in this problem. We have decided to go into paradigm shift, because mostly the security in Mali for the past 20 years or so has been built under the foreign presence, which has been a failure, as I said. We said, okay, let's go to the basic to put the security of the Malians in the hands of the Malian. Malians should be responsible for the security, die for the country, preserve the sovereignty and the unity of the country. We have made significant investment in building the capacity of the army, having a new vision for our army, a new strategy. Today we are spending 1/4 of our budget in the military, because we have no choice. As a consequence today, Mali, who has lost 60% of the territory down the road, with our own meager resources, we have been able to retake Kidal, which has been not under the control of the government for the past 10 years, and many other areas. Today, Malians have full control of their territory, and this is also a big success where the major foreign armies didn't succeed. This paradigm shift is also based on the reaffirmation of the Malian sovereignty, which we resume into 3 principles. The first one is whatever in our relation with our partners is to respect the sovereignty of Mali, to respect the sovereign choices and the choice of partners of Mali, and to make sure in all decisions the vital interests of the Malian people are looked after and respected. Thank you. I think I don't want to go maybe in defining what is insurgency, because some of these problems are man-made. Most of them are created just to create tension in our country. But what was happened before within the Malian army, so we had to recourse to the foreign powers. You know, for many years, over almost 30 years, when we had democracy in Mali, we thought, as Dr. Fukuyama said, that it was the end of the history. And we decided then to emasculate the army almost. That we don't need an army, you just need to build school, to build road, to improve the welfare of the citizen, and then, you know, democracy and peace will come by itself. So nothing has been done, and to really capacitate our army. As we said in our country, if you kill your dog because it's bad, the other people's dog will come to bite you. So for me, it's very important that our leaders, we understand that for every country, as I said, you cannot subcontract your security to others. You need to have your own capacity in place, even though we have to be conscious that security problems will not be only resolved by the army. But if you don't have an army, you will not even be in the conversation. So you need to have your army, you have to build your own army. And I'm not saying that all countries will need to have their own system in place, that they don't need anybody. As they said in the previous panel for the economy, you need to have your own army, and you have to have your own capacity, your own strategy, and you will know who I need for what. If I need the Chinese, I need the Russian, for what? So, in my view, you need to have, because there was a plan to really destroy our army, we need to come back now to understand that we need to have our own capacity, not only at the national level also, we have to be mindful. Even if every country has a perfect army, in Africa today, we don't have any regional military capacity. I know countries, outside countries like the size of South Africa, are coming to help the entire continent on the military issues. We have a problem. When we had issues in the Sahel, when we belonged to the G5 Sahel, as I said previously, Rwanda has been the only country to give us $1 million. But Rwanda is not the wealthiest country in Africa. It means that we lack confidence, we lack solidarity. As we are going through these challenges in the Sahel for 10 years, Africa has done a little to help us. So we need to understand, with solidarity, we can, I think, mutualize our effort. So we need to have confidence in ourselves, in our capacity to design policy, to protect ourselves, to protect our continent. In my view, it starts even at the individual level. Do you think we have the capacity to protect our people? That's my question.
Thank you very much. Now, lastly, but not least,
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to like the video, comment, and share with your friends.